The Lagos sun, a golden orb in a sky of cerulean blue, cast long, luxurious shadows across the sprawling Ikoyi mansion. Inside, Amara Adebayo moved with the effortless grace of a woman perfectly at peace with her world. Her art
Every
gallery,
stroke,
Adebayo Art, was
a piece of
thriving,
my
a
soul.
testament to her discerning eye and unwavering passion for
Every
Nigerian
stroke,
contemporary art.
a
Her
piece of my
marriage to
soul.
Kunle Olaniyan, a celebrated architect, was the envy of their social circle. Their life was a masterpiece, painted with strokes of success, love, and an almost irritating perfection. Kunle, with his broad shoulders and a smile that could disarm nations, was her rock, her confidant, her everything. He often found her in her private studio, a sun-drenched sanctuary overlooking the manicured gardens, lost in thought amidst her canvases. "My love," he'd murmur, his voice a warm embrace, "lost in your world again?" She'd laugh, a melodious sound that filled the spacious room, and turn to him, her eyes sparkling with affection. Their home, a modern architectural marvel he had designed himself, was a sanctuary, a haven from the bustling energy of Lagos just beyond their high walls. Every piece of art, every carefully chosen furnishing spoke of their shared dreams and aspirations. It was, in every sense, a perfect canvas. The first crack in their perfect world appeared on a Tuesday, ushered in by a frantic phone call from Amara's younger sister, Zara. Zara, a free spirit who often drifted between odd jobs and grand unfulfilled ambitions, was in distress. "Amara, I lost my job again, and my landlord, he's threatening to evict me." Her voice, usually so vibrant, was now a fragile whisper. Amara's heart, ever soft, immediately went out to her. Despite Zara's past inconsistencies, family was family. "Of course, Zara, you can stay with us for as long as you need." Kunle, ever the pragmatist, raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure, my dear? Zara can be a handful." But Amara, already picturing her sister safe under their roof, waved away his concerns. "She's family, Kunle. She needs us." He relented with a sigh, a faint shadow crossing his face. Zara arrived 2 days later, a single worn suitcase, her only possession, her eyes wide and seemingly innocent, a stark contrast to the designer clothes and polished surfaces of the Olanian mansion. She was polite, almost excessively so, praising Amara's taste, Kunle's generosity, and the sheer grandeur of their home. Iya Biodun, their longtime housekeeper, a woman whose wisdom was etched in the lines around her eyes, watched Zara with a quiet, unreadable gaze. Amara dismissed it as Iya Biodun's usual reserved nature. She couldn't have known that Zara's arrival was not a plea for refuge, but the calculated insertion of a wedge into the very foundation of her perfect life. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. A misplaced book, a remote control found in the wrong room, a faint, unsettling creak from the empty guest wing at night. Amara, a woman of meticulous habits, initially dismissed them as minor oversights, perhaps a sign of her own growing fatigue. But then the occurrences escalated. The lights in the living room would flicker erratically, even when the power grid was stable. The grandfather clock in the foyer, a cherished family heirloom, would chime at odd hours, its melodic tones turning sinister in the dead of night. Amara would wake in the dark, a prickle of unease on her skin, convinced she heard whispers echoing from the walls, just beyond the reach of her understanding. She mentioned it to Kunle, who would pat her hand dismissively. "My love, you're working too hard. It's just the old house settling." Zara, always present, would offer a sympathetic smile. "Perhaps you're just stressed, sis. Lagos can be overwhelming." Their reassurances, meant to soothe, only amplified Amara's growing sense of isolation. She felt like she was losing her grip, her own home turning against her. Biodun, however, remained silent, her eyes dark and knowing, following Zara's every move. Amara, desperate for an explanation, began to suspect Zara. Her sister, always so eager to please, seemed to be everywhere yet nowhere when these strange things happened. The suspicion, a tiny seed, began to sprout in Amara's mind, poisoning the well of her trust. The turning point came with the desecration of her art. Amara had been working on a new series, a collection of vibrant, abstract pieces inspired by the bustling markets of Lagos. One evening, she returned to her studio, her mind buzzing with creative energy, only to find her largest, most intricate canvas slashed, its vibrant colors bleeding into a grotesque mess. A sharp, guttural cry escaped her lips. This wasn't a misplaced object or a flickering light. This was an act of malice, a direct assault on her soul. Kunle rushed in, his face a mask of concern. What happened? Amara, tears streaming down her face, pointed at the ruined canvas. Someone did this. Zara appeared moments later, her eyes wide with feigned shock. Oh, Amara, who would do such a thing? Amara's gaze, however, was fixed on Zara. The suspicion, once a seed, had now blossomed into a thorny bush of certainty. Zara, she said, her voice trembling with accusation, was it you? Zara recoiled, her innocent facade cracking for a fleeting moment. How could you accuse me, Amara? Your own sister. Kunle stepped between them, his voice firm. Amara, stop this. Zara would never. It must have been an intruder. But Amara knew. She felt it in her bones. The air in the studio crackled with unspoken tension, a silent battle of wills. Kunle's defense of Zara, his immediate dismissal of her accusation, felt like a betrayal. The rift between them, once a hairline fracture, was now a gaping chasm. The incident with the painting solidified Amara's resolve. She couldn't trust Kunle's judgment, and Zara's denials rang hollow. She needed proof. Discreetly, she purchased a tiny, high definition security camera, no bigger than her thumb. She spent hours researching, learning how to install it, how to connect it to her phone, how to ensure its lens captured every inch of her studio. She chose a spot high on a bookshelf, nestled amongst a collection of art books, its tiny lens almost invisible to the naked eye. She also placed a smaller one in her bedroom, a nagging feeling telling her that the strange occurrences weren't limited to her studio. That night, sleep eluded her. Every creak, every rustle of leaves outside sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her phone clutched in her hand, the live feed from the cameras a silent sentinel. The hours crawled by, marked only by the rhythmic ticking of the bedside clock. Just as the first hint of dawn painted the sky with hues of rose and gold, a movement on her phone screen caught her eye. Her breath hitched. A figure, tall and indistinct in the low light, was moving silently through her bedroom. It wasn't Kunle. The silhouette was too slender, too graceful. It moved with a chilling familiarity, as if it belonged there. The figure paused by her dressing table, its head tilted as if listening. Then it slowly turned, its face obscured by shadow, and looked directly into the camera. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. She couldn't make out any features, but the sense of being watched, of being haunted, was overwhelming. The screen flickered, then went black. The last image burned into her mind, a shadowy figure, an unseen eye, and the chilling realization that her perfect canvas was now a terrifying living nightmare. Who was it? And what did they want? The questions screamed in her mind, unanswered, as the first rays of morning light crept into her room. illuminating nothing but a profound fear. The morning after the chilling discovery, Amara's hands trembled as she replayed the footage for Kunle. The shadowy figure, the unsettling gaze directly into the camera, the sudden blackout. See, Kunle, I told you, someone was in our room. Her voice was a desperate plea for validation, for him to finally see the truth. Kunle watched the grainy video, his expression unreadable. He paused it, zoomed in, then shook his head slowly. My love, it's just a trick of the light. The camera is old, the resolution poor. It could be anything, a shadow, a reflection, even Iyabiodun checking on us. His words, calm and rational, were like a cold shower, dousing the fire of her conviction. He even suggested, with a gentle, patronizing smile, that perhaps she was overtired, her imagination running wild. Zara, who had conveniently walked in just as Amara was showing the footage, chimed in with faint concern. Oh, Amara, you really must rest. You've been so stressed lately. Maybe a short vacation would do you good. Her eyes, however, held a flicker of something Amara couldn't quite decipher. A hint of triumph, perhaps? Amara felt a wave of despair wash over her. They were ganging up on her, making her feel insane. The perfect canvas of her life was not just cracking, it was being systematically dismantled, piece by agonizing piece. The more she insisted, the more they dismissed her, their calm demeanor a stark contrast to her rising panic. She was trapped in a nightmare where her reality was constantly being questioned, twisted, and denied. Zara's presence in the house became a constant, insidious poison. She was always there, a silent observer, a subtle manipulator. She would subtly undermine Amara's words, twist her intentions, and amplify her anxieties to Kunle. Amara was so upset about the flickering lights last night, Kunle. She barely slept, she'd say, her voice laced with false sympathy, making it sound like Amara was being overly dramatic. Or, Amara seems to be forgetting things a lot lately, doesn't she? She misplaced her keys again this morning. Each seemingly innocent comment was a tiny drop of venom, slowly eroding Kunle's trust in his wife and reinforcing his belief that Amara was indeed losing her mind. Kunle, once so attentive, grew increasingly distant. He spent more time at his office, often returning late, citing urgent projects. When he was home, his conversations with Amara became clipped, his patience thin. He'd often side with Zara in minor disagreements, or dismiss Amara's concerns with a wave of his hand. The warmth that once filled their home was replaced by a chilling silence, punctuated only by Zara's soft, almost imperceptible laughter from another room. Amara felt a growing chasm between herself and her husband, a chasm that Zara seemed to be diligently widening with every passing day. She was losing him, and she knew it, but she couldn't pinpoint exactly how or why. The gaslighting escalated from psychological torment to a terrifying physical threat. One sweltering afternoon, Amara was driving to her gallery, the Lagos traffic a familiar, chaotic symphony around her. As she approached a busy intersection, she pressed the brake pedal, but nothing happened. Her heart leaped into her throat. She pumped the pedal frantically, but the car continued to hurtle forward, a runaway metal beast. Horns blared, tires screeched, and the world seemed to slow down around her. With a surge of adrenaline, she swerved violently, narrowly missing a commercial bus, and slammed into a roadside store, sending fruits and vegetables scattering across the asphalt. The impact jolted her, but she was alive, miraculously unharmed. The car, however, was a crumpled mess, its front end mangled. When the police arrived, they found the brake lines severed. It wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately tampered with her car. Amara, still shaking, looked at the wreckage, then back at the mansion, a cold dread settling in her stomach. This wasn't just about her sanity anymore. Someone was trying to kill her. She knew with a terrifying certainty who it was, but how could she prove it? Kunle, when he arrived at the scene, was outwardly concerned, but his eyes held a strange, almost detached quality. Zara, of course, was distraught, her performance Oscar worthy. But Amara saw through it all. The incident solidified her resolve. She had to fight back, and she couldn't do it alone. Desperate, Amara remembered Inspector Adebayo, a sharp and perceptive police officer she had met at a charity event a few months prior. He had seemed genuinely interested in her work, and she remembered his calm, reassuring demeanor. With trembling fingers, she found his number and called him. She recounted everything, the strange occurrences, the gaslighting, the ruined painting, and finally the terrifying car incident. She expected skepticism, but Inspector Adebayo listened patiently, his voice steady and professional. He asked probing questions, his tone devoid of judgment. He agreed to look into it, starting with the car, and promised to keep her informed. A tiny glimmer of hope flickered within Amara's heart. Finally, someone believed her. Inspector Adebayo's investigation began discreetly. He interviewed the mechanics who towed Amara's car, the security guards at the mansion, and even Iyabiodun, who, to Amara's surprise, offered cryptic but insightful observations about Zara's recent behavior. The detective, a man who trusted facts over emotions, began to uncover inconsistencies in Zara's story about her past. Her claims of a lost job and eviction didn't quite add up. There were gaps, evasions, and outright fabrications. He found no record of her previous employment, and her landlord's contact information led to a disconnected number. The serpent's tongue, it seemed, had left a trail of lies. One afternoon, while Zara was out, Amara, driven by a desperate need for answers, decided to search her sister's room. She felt a pang of guilt, but the instinct for self preservation was stronger. She meticulously went through Zara's belongings, her heart pounding with every rustle of fabric, every creak of the floorboards. She found nothing incriminating at first, just clothes, toiletries, and a few cheap trinkets. Then, tucked away in a false bottom of a dusty old jewelry box, she found it. A small faded photograph. Her breath hitched. It was Kunle and Zara, much younger, standing close, their arms around each other, their smiles intimate, almost possessive. They looked like a couple, deeply in love. A secret word captured in a single damning image. The photo was dated 5 years ago, long before Amara had even met Conley. Before she could process the full implications of the photograph, the front door opened. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, growing closer. Kunle's voice, then Zara's, their tones light, almost playful. Amara froze, the photograph clutched in her hand. The door to Zara's room swung open. Kunle and Zara stood there, their faces a mixture of surprise and something else, a cold, calculating triumph. Zara's eyes flickered to the photograph in Amara's hand, and a slow, cruel smile spread across her face. Well, well, sister dear, Zara poured, her voice dripping with venom. It seems you finally found our little secret. Kunle stepped forward, his charming smile replaced by a chilling sneer. There's no point in hiding it anymore, Amara. We're in love, and we've been planning this for a very long time. The words hung in the air, a death knell to Amara's perfect life. Her world shattered, not with a bang, but with the cold, calculated confession of the two people she had trusted most. She was cornered, betrayed, and utterly alone. What would happen next? Her mind raced, but no answer came. only the chilling realization that her nightmare had just begun. The truth, when it finally revealed itself, was far more terrifying than any shadow in the lagoon. She was trapped, and her perfect life was nothing but a carefully constructed lie. What would they do to her now? The question screamed in her mind, unanswered, as the two figures advanced, their eyes glinting with a predatory hunger. The game was over, and Amara was the prey. Amara stood frozen, the faded photograph of Kunle and Zara a burning coal in her hand. The air in the room crackled with a sinister energy, thick with betrayal. Kunle, his face stripped of its charming facade, now bore a chilling sneer. Zara, her eyes gleaming with a triumphant malice, stepped closer, her voice a venomous whisper. Surprised, dear sister, did you truly believe your perfect life was anything more than a carefully constructed illusion? Kunle chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. You were so easy to fool, Amara, so trusting, all that talk of love and devotion. It was all for show. We needed your wealth, your connections, and now we have them. He gestured around the opulent room, a cruel parody of their once shared dreams. Amara's mind reeled, trying to grasp the enormity of their deception. The gaslighting, the strange occurrences, the car accident, it all clicked into place, a horrifying mosaic of their calculated cruelty. She was not losing her mind. She was being systematically dismantled by the two people she had loved and trusted most. Zara advanced, her eyes fixed on Amara's face, savoring her pain. We've been together for years, Amara, long before you ever met Kunle. He was always mine. You were just a means to an end. The words were a physical blow, stealing Amara's breath. The perfect love story, the fairy tale marriage, was a lie. A meticulously crafted performance designed to ensnare her. She felt a surge of nausea, a desperate urge to escape, but her legs felt rooted to the spot, paralyzed by the shock of the unveiled treachery. Kunle, enjoying her torment, began to elaborate on their twisted scheme. We've been working on this for months, slowly, subtly eroding your credibility, making you seem unstable. He picked up a framed photo of them from the bedside table, a picture of their wedding day, and casually dropped it, the glass shattering with a sharp crack. The doctors are already on standby. A few more incidents, a few more delusions, and you'll be safely tucked away. A quiet, comfortable asylum. And then your assets, your gallery, everything that will be ours. Zara added, her voice chillingly calm. It's for your own good, Amara. You're clearly not well. Imagine the stress of running a gallery, managing a household. It's too much for your fragile mind. They painted a picture of a benevolent intervention, a compassionate act to save her from herself, while their eyes betrayed the cold, calculating greed that fueled their every word. Amara's anger, a slow burning ember, began to ignite. She was not fragile, she was not insane, she was a victim of their monstrous ambition. But what could she do? She was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and trapped in her own home. Just as Conley reached for his phone, presumably to call the doctors, a firm knock echoed from the front door. Conley and Zara exchanged a look of annoyance. Who could that be? Conley muttered, his voice laced with irritation. Iya Biodun's voice, calm and steady, drifted from the hallway. Sir, it's the police. Our Inspector Adebayo is here to see you. A flicker of panic crossed Kunle's face, quickly masked by a composed smile. The police? What could they possibly want? He turned to Amara, his eyes cold and menacing. Not a word, Amara, or you'll regret it. He and Zara left the room, leaving Amara alone, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and a desperate, burgeoning hope. Was this her chance? Could Inspector Adebayo save her? Inspector Adebayo, a man whose presence commanded respect, stood in the foyer, his expression unreadable. Mr. Olanian, I have a few more questions regarding the incident with your wife's car. Kunle, ever the smooth talker, tried to deflect, but the detective was persistent. Mr. Olanian, I have a few more questions regarding the incident with your wife's car. He presented irrefutable evidence of their conspiracy, detailed financial transactions showing large sums transferred from Amara's accounts to offshore accounts controlled by Kunle and Zara, phone records detailing their extensive communication, and sworn statements from the mechanics who confirmed the deliberate tampering of Amara's car. The net was closing in, and this time there was no escape. As Kunle's composure began to crumble, Amara, seizing her opportunity, rushed downstairs, the photograph clutched in her hand. He's lying, detective. They're trying to have me committed. They're lovers, and they've been plotting to steal everything from me. She thrust the photograph at the detective, her voice ringing with a newfound strength. The truth, raw and undeniable, hung in the air. Kunle and Zara, their faces contorted with rage and desperation, lunged at Amara, but Inspector Adebayo's officers swiftly intervened, apprehending them. In their desperate struggle to destroy evidence, Zara accidentally knocked over a lit candle, igniting a nearby curtain. Flames erupted, licking at the expensive fabric, spreading with terrifying speed. The smoke alarm shrieked a piercing, incessant wail. The perfect mansion, once a symbol of their success, was now a raging inferno, consuming the lies and the betrayal. Inspector Adebayo, his face grim, pulled Amara away from the chaos. We have to get out of here. He dragged her towards the exit, the heat and smoke making it difficult to breathe. Iya Biodun, who had been quietly observing the entire scene, joined them, her eyes filled with a quiet satisfaction. They escaped the burning mansion safely, watching as the fire consumed the grand structure, a symbol of Amara's past pain and deception. Kunle and Zara, handcuffed and defeated, were led away by the police, their grand scheme in ruins, their future bleak. Months later, the ashes had settled, and from them a new, stronger Amara emerged. The mansion was a total loss, but not everything was gone. Iya Biodun, with her quiet wisdom and foresight, had secretly moved Amara's most valuable artworks to a secure off-site storage facility after her initial suspicions about Zara's true intentions. These masterpieces, symbols of Amara's passion and legacy, were safe. The insurance money, combined with the proceeds from selling the land where the mansion once stood, provided Amara with the resources to start anew. Kunle and Zara faced the full force of the law, their crimes exposed, their reputations shattered. Amara, no longer the naive and trusting woman, had transformed. She had faced betrayal and emerged victorious. She poured her renewed energy and vision into building a new art gallery, a modern, vibrant space that reflected her journey of overcoming adversity. It was smaller, more intimate, but filled with an even greater sense of purpose and authenticity. Her art, once a reflection of her perfect life, now spoke of resilience, strength, and the beauty of rebirth. Iya Biodun remained by her side, not just as a housekeeper, but as a trusted friend and confidant, her quiet presence a comforting anchor in Amara's new life. Amara found a new sense of peace and purpose. She learned to trust her instincts, to discern true intentions, and to value genuine connections over superficial grandeur. She surrounded herself with authentic friends and collaborators, people who appreciated her for who she truly was. The painful past was a lesson learned, a dark shadow that had ultimately led her to a brighter, more authentic future. She was free, independent, and ready for a life filled with genuine joy, success, and the endless possibilities of a new, unblemished canvas. The shadow in the lagoon had been vanquished, replaced by the radiant light of our own triumph. And here comes the end of this great story. If you stayed up till this point, please give us a like, share, and subscribe to the channel to encourage us bring you more relaxing folk tales.